University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangster strut your mother in the house? We'll set this job. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Samford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek. All right, left you guys waiting long enough. We got to play this today to open the show. We got to play it. We all know what we're going to talk about today, guys. All of this shit had to unfold when we on holiday, baby. We going to unpack it today. Lane Kiffin is headed to the LSU Tigers. I'm wearing my Rebels hat in solidarity today because this is bullshit. Bullshit. But we can't fight it. We can't control it. So we might as well play neck. You know what I'm saying? Because Lane Kiffin's going to be hearing this in Death Valley until he finds a better job. Until the LSU job's not enough anymore. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Lane Kiffin has accepted the job at LSU, and I will be the first thing I will say on today's show is that I was wrong. I didn't think Lane had any reason to leave Ole Miss. I don't think Lane had a good reason to leave Ole Miss. Poor Marty Smith. Poor Marty Smith. Marty Smith doesn't get talked about enough, and I don't have a picture of Marty Smith, the ESPN correspondent, to put on here. But if you guys were on Twitter following this head coaching saga, you will know that there is a picture of Marty Smith, the ESPN reporter, that was all over Twitter for a span of 24 hours. And the reason that he became a meme was that Marty Smith showed up to the Ole Miss facility bright and early at the ass crack of dawn to cover the Lane Kiffin decision. Kiffin was expected to make a decision on Saturday. Ole Miss played in the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State on Friday, and they win 38-19. Eventually would be realized that Lane Kiffin's last game as an Ole Miss Rebel was that Egg Bowl. Marty Smith, the ESPN correspondent, shows up at the Ole Miss facility Saturday morning at the crack ass of dawn, and he's there for what seems like 24 hours. What seemed like 24 hours. People were joking that Marty Smith was being held hostage at Ole Miss's facility because it got messy. It got messy. And if you guys are watching this, you're probably familiar with the craziness of the SEC. People posted up outside of the chancellor's house because they saw a couple of cars pull up. Apparently, Lane Kiffin and AD Keith Carter were at the chancellor of Ole Miss's house. I can't remember the chancellor's name. And these folks were working on it. They were working on it. And now we know that the contention with Lane Kiffin and AD Keith Carter and the chancellor of the university was that Lane had decided to go take the job at LSU. By the way, I don't know if we are going to have enough time to cover this. I was late today. I've been late for the last week or so, so we're only going to be able to do about a 20-minute episode until I got to head to jiu-jitsu tonight, but we'll continue to talk about it. We'll continue to unpack it. But it's all said and done. Lane Kiffin spent the majority of Saturday talking with athletic director Keith Carter at Ole Miss, talking with the chancellor at Ole Miss, and we now know that the topic of discussion in those closed-door meetings was about Lane wanting to coach Ole Miss through the college football playoff, even though he was planning to take the head coaching job at LSU. Marty Smith got held hostage, the ESPN journalist, Southern guy, got held hostage at the Ole Miss facility for all of Saturday. A decision doesn't come officially until Sunday. And Marty Smith is getting a meme made of him on Twitter because he's hanging by the Ole Miss facility so long. And the reason he had to hang around so long was because it got messy. Look, and the way Lane Kiffin handled this, I've had time to think on it. I think it's good that we're not covering this until today because we've had some time to think on it. We've had some time to reflect on it. You can't make a hoe a housewife. There's a kid on Twitter. He covers Ole Miss football, and his name's Ben Garrett. And if you know anything, there's been tons of memes that have arisen from this Lane Kiffin saga. It's been great cinema, signature to Lane Kiffin on Twitter. And you got a writer for Ole Miss, a guy that covers Ole Miss football, kind of like we cover football in general. This guy covers Ole Miss football. His name's Ben Garrett. And when all of this is going down, look, I've known this for 2 or 3 weeks now that Ole Miss fans, people of Oxford, have been pissed off at Lane Kiffin far before all this happened this weekend. People in Oxford, they're pissed. And I was kind of on the fence about it. I was kind of like, it's coaching. It's colder than the dope game, right? You can't be mad at a coach for wanting to look at options, for wanting to leverage a job offer. We talked about it on this show. I stood up for Lane Kiffin, talking about if you're a salesperson in an insurance company in corporate America and you smash your quota and you get a bigger offer from another company, that you would take that offer to your company and see if they won't pay you more. Well, apparently, sources have confirmed that Ole Miss was willing to pay Lane in excess of what LSU offered him. He's going to be making $12 million a year as the head coach of the Tigers for the next 7 years, assuming he doesn't leave for Alabama. Because I feel like that's the only move that Lane Kiffin would have made. And he takes this LSU job. Marty Smith, the ESPN reporter, finally gets his moment to interview Lane after hanging around the Ole Miss facility for 48 hours. He gets his moment with Lane on the tarmac. It was a great interview. He hit on all the questions, and Lane just didn't really answer any of them. Marty asked a great question. He asked Lane Kiffin, he said, what is better about LSU than Ole Miss? And Lane goes, well, I can't answer that. I can't really. Jasper, please stop moving the camera, son. Come here. Get over here. The dog's moving the camera. You guys see that shit? Jasper, get over here. Yeah, get up, man. God, I tell you to move, you move. So Marty Smith gets a moment. He asks, what's better about LSU and Ole Miss? I can't really answer that. Listen, man, Lane Kiffin has done an incredible job rebuilding his reputation, rebuilding his career, he said it himself. He hopes that one day Ole Miss fans, the emotions are high right now, but he hopes one day Ole Miss fans will be able to appreciate what they were able to build there. I agree with that sentiment, but the fashion of the exit has destroyed any and all goodwill that Lane Kiffin has built with not just Ole Miss, but with the public as well. The fashion of the exit, we've had time to think on this situation. It's why I'm standing in solidarity with the Rebs. These are my two favorite schools in the SEC. You set Kentucky aside. I grew up in Lexington. That's a failing athletic program until they get the athletic director, Mitch Barnhart, out of there. You set Kentucky aside. None of these schools are my alma mater, by the way. But you set Kentucky aside. The two schools I identify with the most, the two schools in the SEC that I enjoy the culture and love being around the fans of the most are, number one, Ole Miss. My grandmother grew up in Corinth, Mississippi, about an hour northeast of Oxford. Everybody in my family goes to Ole Miss except for me. I love Ole Miss. I went to one of the games down there. I went to the Ole Miss LSU game this year. It feels like home. I've never been to Baton Rouge, but I'm going to New Orleans next week. I love LSU fans. We obviously play the neck song almost every episode on here. I love Suck That Tiger thing, bitch. I love all that shit. So these are my two favorite schools in the SEC. I don't know where I was going with that, but I get why Lane wants to take the LSU job. I just don't know what you couldn't do at LSU that you could do at Ole Miss. The word on the street is Lane feels like he's going to have better access to better recruits at LSU. He gets off the plane at Baton Rouge last night, and he immediately starts shooting the shit with one of the best high school prospects in America. It looked like they were in a cannabis dispensary. The walls they had like this green stuff on them. I can't really explain it better than that. Apparently the rumors about coaches, there was a rumor that came out over the weekend. Things got really messy with this whole thing. There was a rumor that came out over the weekend that Lane told any offensive staff that if they weren't on the plane to go to Baton Rouge, that they would not have a job with him. He refuted that in his interview with Marty Smith. Now, do we trust anything that Lane is saying at this point anymore? He's destroyed all goodwill. The fashion of the exit was, in my opinion, after thinking about it, incredibly disrespectful to Ole Miss. I listened to a college coach talking about the situation earlier, and what he said was that when he was out recruiting and he didn't want anyone to know where he was going, you can dial up the pilot and say, hey, can you delist this flight from public records? Can you do this? Can you do that? So last week before last, whenever it was, when Lane was sending his family to Gainesville, Florida to look at houses, when Lane was sending his family to Baton Rouge to look at houses, check it out, they didn't even make an effort to quiet this down. Now, it is the SEC. It's the craziest culture in all of sports, pro football, college football. The SEC is by far the craziest. So you're going to, when you're a guy like Lane Kiffin coaching in the SEC and you're sending your family to other conference rivals during the season to go check shit out, and you don't even make the effort to dial up the pilot, to get your people to do whatever to cover it up. They didn't even make an effort to cover it up. They just did the damn thing. And a lot of Ole Miss people will tell you, a lot of Ole Miss folks will tell you that Their team last year, talent-wise, was much better than this 11-1 team this year, getting ready to head to the college football playoff for the first time in school history. First time they've had a chance to make the SEC championship in school history. That squad last year, Jackson Dart, Walter Nolan. If you look at it talent-wise, any Ole Miss fan will tell you that last year's team was much more talented than this year's team. They go 9-3, they miss the playoff. And so a lot of insider folks on this matter, the matter of Lane Kiffin and his exit from Ole Miss, will tell you that after last season was the moment that Lane knew that he was probably going to leave Ole Miss. Not in the last couple of weeks, not during the season, really. I mean, technically it's still during the season. But sources say that after that team with all that talent at Ole Miss last year didn't make the playoff, Lane started to ask the question of, this is the best team we've ever had here talent-wise. Is this something we would ever be able to do? Go and win a national title. And they had a chance with this team this year. Unfortunately, Ole Miss will not allow him to coach the rest of the way. It is a goddamn shame what has happened with this Ole Miss football program. I would argue that they might be, after this entire saga, some of the most tortured fans in college football. I'm not saying they don't have a chance to run the table, but it's a lot like the state. And again, we're going to make this about the Bengals. You know me, you know the show. It's a lot like the state of the Cincinnati Bengals season. There's good things to it, but there's also a dire, ominous, impending sense of doom as well for Ole Miss fans and Cincinnati Bengals fans. They both got a shot still, but the probability is very dim with Lane out as head coach. They got a new head coach. I thought it was a bit emotional of a decision for Ole Miss to announce, what's his name? Is it Matt Golding or Pete Golding? Ole Miss. Golding, Ole Miss. He's a real country boy. Pete Golding. Apparently this guy is running the shots behind the scenes at Ole Miss. That's what everyone at Ole Miss is saying. Now, I would understand why Ole Miss folks are very quick to say, this is our guy. He's going to do great for us. We're going to hire him permanently. I think it's a bit of an emotional decision by Ole Miss's administration. Just slap the interim title by his name, Pete Golding. This guy apparently is the juice guy. He galvanizes the program. He gets them fired up. You're seeing all these videos of Keith Carter introducing Pete Golding to the team as the head coach. I don't think it's going to be the same. I think these players are going to be debilitated. But I also thought this, and this is my intrinsic desire for Ole Miss football to continue to do well, was that maybe the players use this as fuel. Maybe they play more pissed off. Maybe they play more motivated to say, we're going to show his ass. But even in the last week or so, you've seen Ole Miss players on Twitter saying, we're fully with coach. Whatever decision he makes, we're fully with him. I would be interested to know how many players from this Ole Miss roster right now will end up an LSU Tiger next season. It'll be very interesting to follow. And I get why Ole Miss told Lane, no, we're not letting you coach this thing out. Because for the next month, only thing that's going to be going on in Ole Miss's building is lobbying for guys to come with Lane to LSU. And I thought of that old clip of that, what's that? Was it Romeo? No, I don't think it was Romeo Crennel. It was another black guy, head coach for the Cardinals. They are who we thought they were. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. I mentioned Ben Garrett earlier. and I'm going to have to run in like 10 minutes, guys. I really apologize. Hopefully this storyline isn't stale by the show tomorrow, and we can continue to unpack on the show tomorrow. I'll wear my Ole Miss hat again. But you got a guy that covers Ole Miss football. His name's Ben Garrett. And on Friday, on Friday, Lane Kiffin confronted Ben. This is Ben Garrett on the right, and there's Lane getting in his face on the left after Mississippi beat Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl 38-19. Ben Garrett went on his podcast talking about the Rebels and was pissed about the Lane Kiffin situation like any other Ole Miss fan has been for the last 3 weeks, last month. And he said about Lane, you can't turn a hoe into a housewife, meaning Lane Kiffin's always going to chase the next big job, and he's going to exit in undesirable fashion. Lane Kiffin took it as, oh, you called me a hoe. He took it literal. He said, I'm not a hoe or something. Like, he walked up to this guy, the whole depth of this discussion that you're seeing in the picture right there. And Ole Miss fans got on Ben's case right there on the right side of the picture. They got on his case right there for a day or two and kind of took Lane's side. And then as the whole thing played out, they obviously took Ben's side. And I started seeing edits from Ole Miss fans making Ben's eyes laser red. I've got a Joe Flacco red pill avatar on Twitter myself. I really enjoy when somebody becomes vindicated or is cool like Joe Flacco, and somebody will just Photoshop some red beams onto their eyes and make them look like a powerful human being. You know, so they did that with Ben because he ended up being right. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. And LSU has got Ole Miss in Oxford apparently again next year. Lane will be returning to Oxford in his first season as LSU's head coach after leaving Ole Miss the way he has in the past 48 hours. I don't understand how that works, by the way, because I just went to Ole Miss LSU in Oxford. I thought the way you did things in football was you traded places every year. So home away, home away. I'm hearing that Ole Miss is going to play LSU at home in Oxford again next year. So that return is going to be incredible. And they got to play a few songs like I Got Hoes, Call It, Use a Hoe. Because that's what he is, man. If I were to do this show yesterday, I would have taken the angle of, well, this is college football's fault. The college football folks in charge, they haven't structured signing day. They haven't structured the transfer portal. They haven't structured any of these things in a way that's effectively put guardrails in, and that's why all this is happening. I still don't disagree with that sentiment, but I do think it's a bit of a lazy take. You got to look at it objectively. The way Lane exited was unsatisfactory. It's completely on par with how he's operated his entire career, and he's gone about his retribution tour the last couple of years in a way that says, I'm changed, I'm different, be where my feet are. And all of that just proved to be talk this weekend. Again, coaching's colder than a dope game, especially in college football these days. I don't blame Lane Kiffin for wanting to take what he seems or what he feels like to be a promotion. It's the way he went about it. You don't send your family to Gainesville, to Baton Rouge, midseason conference rivals. Like if Lane Kiffin's the coach of Bowling Green, if Lane Kiffin's the coach of the Miami of Ohio Redhawks, send Jets to Gainesville all you want. They'll be happy to see you take that job. But it's different when you're in the SEC. it's much different. Number one, that's the big thing. Number two, number two is, I said this earlier, you could dial up a pilot. You could say, delist this flight. You could say, hey, we're trying to keep this under wraps. This is a sensitive situation. They didn't make any effort to do all that. And I'm running out of time. I don't even have time to talk about all the texts, all the Snapchats that are getting leaked of Lane Kiffin basically fucking on Ole Miss women his entire time there. They're all leaking it now that he's gone. And a lot of other fans of other programs are poking fun at the fact that Ole Miss folks kept all this under wraps for so long because he was winning. It makes sense. The Lanestein files are calling it. You see it on the thumbnail there. I haven't even talked about that on the episode, and I got to go soon. I probably blew my load a bit throwing that on the thumbnail. I could have thrown that on the thumbnail tomorrow, but I threw it on the thumbnail today. You got the Lanestein files. It's a trending topic on Twitter in the SEC community, and everybody's leaking texts from that girls got from Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss girls, college days girls as young as Lane's daughter Landry. And the code for all of this was come babysit Juice, his dog, who they have a Twitter account for, and they have had an office for at the Ole Miss facility. So Lane would just invite girls to Juice's office, and he would there's no confirmation of it, but it's very much implied that he would have these ladies come to Juice's office and lay it down a bit, you know, give them a little bit of that Kiffin wood, a little bit of that 50-year-old piece. You know what I'm saying? It's insane. The Lanestein files are calling it. And everybody in Oxford kept this shit under wraps until this exit. I imagine that it would have gone this way even if he had made an effort to exit gracefully, just because it's LSU. You have a name on the game, the Magnolia Bowl between Ole Miss and LSU. It's a historic rivalry. Magnolia Bowl. So I don't think Ole Miss fans would have taken kindly to him leaving for LSU, even if he did it in the most graceful way possible, the most apologetic way possible. But he didn't. So we don't even have to talk about it because he left like a dick. And continues to add to the story. I think to tie it all together, I got to go to jiu-jitsu, guys. Maybe this storyline won't be stale by tomorrow. But I think the whole thing with Lane Kiffin, I think the story behind Lane Kiffin and the moves he's made throughout the course of his career, he hasn't changed. I think the thing that drives Lane Kiffin is that he wants to contribute to the game of football like his father, Monty, did. And the thing is that I don't think anyone could measure up to Monty Kiffin's unique contribution to the defensive side of the football game. And I think Lane is just chasing that. He's chasing that. He's chasing that. There's nothing you can't do at Ole Miss that you can do at LSU these days. In his mind, it might be a little different. Might have different access to players, recruits. You know, recruiting Louisiana, I'm sure is you'll find more talent than Mississippi. But like, they're in the playoff, and he's not coaching them. And a lot of fans feel like this is that the best season in program history for Ole Miss is going to go to waste. It's a really sad thing. I love Ole Miss. I loved seeing the Lane Kiffin era at Ole Miss. I hate seeing the way it ended, but it just seems like Lane can't get out of his own way with trying to measure up to the achievements of his father. That's my take on it. I think that's why he wanted to take this job. He said it in the press conference, the introductory press conference, introducing him as head coach today at Baton Rouge at LSU. He said that this is the greatest job in football. That's how he feels. I don't think I disagree with him either. It's just you had a chance to continue to build something like that at Ole Miss. And the people of Oxford, the people of Mississippi, you know, they're left behind. And I really hope that they find a way to continue to make this program great. I feel like they need Lane, and they don't have him anymore. So, somber note to end it on there. I have a lot of other shit on this, but we just do not have time. I'm going to be late as the dickens to jiu-jitsu. I sound like my grandpa. Anyway, if you guys are watching this show for the first time, welcome in. Sorry if you're popping in late. Just go to the channel, watch the replay. You can also go to any audio platform, big or small, Spotify, Amazon, all the way down to like your Tubi or whatever the fuck those things are called. That's updated daily. We got live streams on this channel. We just did our first live reaction stream to the Bengals Ravens game on Thanksgiving, and we didn't even talk about that, but we called the entire game. It's on my channel right now. You can go and watch it. You probably would have to be a pretty big football fan to want to listen to an entire game or my call of the game back, but you might be interested in that. And if you are, it's on my channel. Maybe we'll get more into the implications of that. This is probably the day that I would be most optimistic as a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and we didn't even talk about them. We just spent our whole time talking about Lane. So I'm going to send you guys off now. I got to head to jiu-jitsu, but if you're watching this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. A lot of folks watch this show and think they're subscribed, but they are not. I will not ask you for anything else in my life ever, and it's free. I'm not going to jump through the screen and bite you or whatever. So make sure you sub. It helps us out a lot. We're live Monday through Friday on this show around 6 Eastern. I want to maybe start getting off earlier, so be on the lookout for that. You can't be on the lookout if you ain't subbed. And we got Madden streams. We just called our first game. You could pull up the live stream and listen to my call on the game as you're watching the game. I don't give a fuck. I don't know. All right, I got to head out, guys. Jim Scannell says Notre Dame. Jim Scannell says go Irish. Jim, make sure you subscribe to the channel. At least go and replay the episode on my channel. Appreciate you guys so much. Let's see what we got on the sound pad here. And with that, I'm going to send you guys off. I got to go get choked out a couple times. Pause!